Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. And we are on our final draft pick of 2023. And we closed out the draft very well, in my estimation, with this pick. This was a guy that some people thought was going to be gone in the top 100 picks. Pretty much everybody thought they were going to be gone by at least round 5. So this particular player being available in round 7 was kind of a shock. And for us to get a player like that in round 7 is tremendous. Even if you're not the biggest fan in the world of the player, and I'm not, I think that there are probably, even at that point in the draft, there might have been one or two players that I placed higher value on than Kenny McIntosh. You still did very well to get somebody like this in the 7th round. So this was a great way to end the draft. And this is a player who I do think is going to make a non-negligible impact on the Seattle Seahawks as a rookie. I don't think this is a throwaway 7th round pick. I don't think this is a guy who's going to touch the ball 3-4 times and that's it. No, I think this guy is actually going to do meaningful things for this team this year. Kenny McIntosh of the Georgia Bulldogs, I don't know how big his role will be, but I do believe there is a role. There will be a role for Kenny McIntosh, and that's all you can ask for, man. So, anyway, let's talk about him the best that we can here, and then we'll start moving towards the UDFA portion tomorrow. But first, we got to get through the rundown on Kenny McIntosh again by the numbers. So, like I said, running back out of Georgia, he'll be 23 by the time the season starts in September. So, not old, but not young for a rookie. His measurables are pretty kind of nothing stands out here really. He's taller than the average running back, 69th percentile, pretty much 6 feet tall, and he's well below average in all the other areas. 204 pounds is 23rd percentile, although in the modern NFL it's becoming more median to weigh that much, I think, as a running back. 30.5-inch arms, 35th percentile. 9-inch hands is 26th percentile. And the only testing that he did at the combine was his 40-yard dash, and he kind of bombed it. And I think that's part of the reason why he was there in the 7th round. That's all I can think of. I'm not surprised he didn't go until day 3, but I thought for sure he'd be gone by the 5th round. And for him to get to the 7th, I think the testing kind of influenced the minds of the front offices a little too much. 4.62 40 time, 26th percentile, well below expectations. However, his 10-yard split was actually quite good. 1.54, 70th percentile. So that's the only thing that I got for this guy because he's clearly got NFL value. But let's talk about his career so far. And these first few years, there's not going to be much to say. 2019, first year Georgia, he did play, but not that much. He played 57 snaps, which is a little bit more than a game's worth of snaps. For a running back, you could say maybe 2 games. Only played in 5 games total, touched the ball 26 times for 177 yards, had 2 touchdowns, caught 1 pass, broke a couple tackles, had a couple longer runs, lined up in the slot once. And yeah, there just isn't a whole lot to talk about here. He was graded out reasonably well in the pass blocking area and the running area, not so much in the passing and run blocking area. But again, it's too small of a sample size to learn anything from. So let's just move on. 2020, it's a little bit more definitive, but still nowhere near a big enough sample size. 8 games, 147 snaps, 47 carries for 251 yards and a touchdown. This year, he starts to get utilized more as a receiver, and that's going to be a very key thing to note as we move forward with Kenny McIntosh. He had 10 catches on 14 targets, over 100 yards, broke 23 tackles this season, which was actually pretty nice given the fact that he had 57 touches. Had some longer runs, but only a couple really long runs, and allowed 2 pressures in pass protection, which gave him a pass blocking grade of 2.5, which is the lowest PFF grade I've ever seen on anything by a pretty wide margin. And you can also start to see the versatility by which he is utilized on the Georgia offense start to take effect. He's still in the backfield most of the time, but he starts to line up in the slot a fairly decent amount, and he even lines up wide every now and then. So it's still not there yet. We're still waiting to see what kind of player this guy is, and it's not really a knock on him, right? Like, he's getting stuck behind guys like James Cook and Zamir White. So it's tough to get carries sometimes in these elite offenses. 2021, he gets a little bit more action than the previous year, but not by much. Plays in not all 13 games, but 13 games for Georgia. 185 snaps, 58 attempts, 328 yards. So still efficient, still effective, and he does become a pretty prolific pass catcher. 22 catches for 242 yards and a couple touchdowns. Broke or made 39 potential tacklers miss. Had some longer runs, had some really longer runs. Lined up as a wide receiver 40 times on his 185 snaps. So it's starting to take shape a little bit here. We're starting to get some idea of what the player is. But it wasn't until 2022 when we really started to get an idea of how this guy might work. In 2022, he finally became the man for the Georgia offense, at least in the backfield. And he finally got a full slate of carries, full slate of targets, full slate of opportunities. 15 games, 456 snaps. Still not a ton, by the way. Still not a ton, because Georgia was a very deep team and they were able to sub him in and out pretty consistently and not put a ton on him, which could be a good thing for us. 149 rushing attempts, 5.6 yards per carry, so 829 yards total, 10 rushing touchdowns, and maybe more interesting than that, he was targeted 49 times, 42 catches, over 500 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. So the guy was a fantastic receiver, both out of the backfield and lining up on the outside. So he's providing value in multiple ways for this Georgia offense. He did lose 2 fumbles, but he ended up making 60 potential tacklers miss, either breaking the tackle or shaking him. Had a decent share of longer runs and a fairly decent number of really long runs. Allowed 1 pressure in his very small sample size of pass blocking snaps, which, by the way, he really didn't get a lot of run doing that when he was at Georgia. There is reason to believe that he can do it from the Senior Bowl, I think it is. But definitely leaving some stuff on the table there in terms of experience. And overall, we start to get a really good idea of what Kenny McIntosh is. He is somebody who is a running back. He plays out of the backfield plenty, but if you want to get the best out of him, you're going to be using him as a wide receiver a lot as well. He lined up in the slot 38 times last year, so that's 2.5 times a game. And he lined up wide almost 2 times a game. So you put that all together, and you have a guy who can be utilized in a very creative fashion. He graded out well in most areas. Again, the blocking is a little bit questionable, but he didn't get a lot of run doing that. Most of his plays were where he was either running a route or getting the ball. So on those plays, he was graded out extremely well. And you can say that about previous years as well, like 2020 and 2021. But this year, he actually got the ball almost 200 times, and he maintained his elite efficiency. So you put it all together, and this Kenny McIntosh guy, you can paint a pretty clear picture of what he is based off what he did last year. So you take a look at his career numbers. They're not huge. They're not huge. He has less than 1,600 career rushing yards and less than 900 career receiving yards. Only 20 career touchdowns across 4 years because he just didn't play that much despite being a 4-year player at Georgia. But again, that could be good. Less wear and tear on his body. Less things going on that might require him to have a shortened NFL career. Somebody like a Leonard Fournette who took such a beating in college that by the time they got to the pros, I don't think they had as much left as some people were anticipating, and they didn't really live up to that top 10 pick. This is a guy who really only had 1 year of full run, and even that 1 year, I mean, we're talking less than 500 snaps. We're talking less than 200 touches. On his career, across 4 years of college football, he's got about 350 total touches. So that's less than 100 touches a season on average, and obviously it's heavily slanted towards the most recent year. But you do kind of like that on some level. The issue could be he'll be raw, and he won't be fully ready to contribute from day one because he doesn't have the reps. But honestly, watching him play last year, if you really take a look at what he was doing, it seems like he should be able to do that pretty much immediately. So, some things that are worth noting, I think, about this player. He does not turn a lot of his long runs into really long runs. He has 48 runs of 10 yards or more, and then I think he had like less. I forgot to put the number up here, but I think it was like 20 runs. In fact, let's go ahead and count now. It was 8 plus 3, so 11, 13, and yeah, 15. So only 15 of his runs actually went for 15 yards or more out of 48 that went for 10 or more. So he's not turning his long runs into longer runs. He only had 53 pass blocking reps across 4 years at Georgia. Most of them came last year, of course, but it it just seems like something that he didn't do very much in college. Now, again, the pro day, I'm sorry, not the pro day, but the Senior Bowl indicated that he can do it, but we're working with a pretty small sample size here of that. So, though that's a rundown of the numbers of Kenny McIntosh. Um, Fun dual threat running back, can provide some good stuff as a running back, but where he really stands out is as a receiver. And unlike a guy like Zach Charbonnet, who catches out of the backfield, Kenny McIntosh can catch out of the backfield, but he can also line up as a receiver and catch as a receiver. He's actually running routes. He's actually doing things to push the ball down the field, not just be a security blanket. So I think that Kenny McIntosh is providing a dimension to this offense that even somebody like Charbonnet doesn't. Like, Charbonnet can play on third down. Charbonnet has the skill set to play on third down. But Kenny McIntosh is a true third down running back. So that may very well be his role in the 2023, Seahawks offense. See you guys later today with more on Kenny McIntosh. Let me know what you guys think down below. Go Hawks.